At 4:37 on a Sunday morning, after 14 hours of keeping a 7-year-old boy breathing, I drove to the lake house my grandfather had left me and found another family asleep inside it. A wooden sign reading "The Morgan Family's New Beginning" hung across the front porch where Grandpa's American flag used to be. My sister-in-law's white sectional filled the living room, children's shoes covered the stairs, and my grandfather's books had been packed into garbage bags beside the garage door. My 9-year-old nephew looked at my hospital scrubs and shouted, "Dad, the lady from Milwaukee is here." Then my older brother walked out of the kitchen, drinking from Grandpa's chipped green coffee mug, and said, "You weren't using the place, Erin, so we solved the problem." My mother had given him the spare key. His wife had already posted photographs online, captioned, "Finally giving our children the home they deserve." A real estate developer had offered nearly $900,000 for the land, and my brother had signed my name to a one-page authorization letting him negotiate the sale. He believed placing his children inside the house would make me too ashamed to remove them. 3 months later, at Thanksgiving, my mother placed a property transfer form beside my plate and told 24 relatives that refusing to sign would prove I cared more about an empty house than my own niece and nephew. My name is Erin Calloway. I was 35 years old when my family decided that being unmarried, childless, exhausted, and compassionate meant I had fewer rights than everyone else. I worked as a respiratory therapist in the pediatric intensive care unit at Lakeshore Children's Hospital in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Most of my shifts lasted 12 hours on paper and 14 in reality. I managed ventilators, assisted during emergency intubations, monitored children whose lungs were failing, and stood beside parents during the worst nights of their lives. I had learned how to remain calm, while alarms screamed, doctors shouted numbers, and terrified people begged for promises nobody could honestly make. My coworkers said I was steady. My family used a different word: convenient. I lived in a 2-bedroom condo near the hospital because night shifts made commuting difficult. The condo had gray walls, a narrow balcony, a kitchen table mostly covered in unopened mail, and blackout curtains thick enough to make noon look like midnight. It was not glamorous, but it was mine. I paid for it myself. Nobody stored boxes in the second bedroom. Nobody arrived with children and called empty space wasted. Nobody asked why a woman without a husband needed 2 bathrooms. The lake house sat 70 miles southwest of Milwaukee, outside a small town near Lake Geneva. It was a weathered cedar-sided home with a deep porch, a stone fireplace, 3 bedrooms, and a detached workshop facing a narrow stretch of water. The land was more valuable than the house. New developments had appeared along nearby roads, replacing woods and old cottages with polished vacation homes, private docks, and short-term rentals marketed as luxury retreats. Grandpa hated them. "People keep buying views and destroying what they came to see," he used to say. His name was Walter Calloway. He had worked as a high school shop teacher before opening a small cabinet-making business with one former student and a borrowed truck. He built bookcases, dining tables, church pews, and kitchen cabinets across southern Wisconsin for more than 40 years. He had broad hands, a soft voice, and the ability to remain silent long enough that dishonest people often revealed more than they intended. Grandpa was the only adult in my childhood who never praised me for needing less. My father died in a construction accident when I was 11. My brother Derek was 15. After Dad's death, our mother, Linda, turned the entire family around Derek's grief. He had been old enough to remember their fishing trips, football games, and weekend projects. I remembered Dad too, but apparently my grief looked more manageable. I did my homework. I packed lunches. I learned how to wash clothes after Mom forgot them in the machine for 3 days. Derek punched a hole in his bedroom wall, stopped attending practice, and failed 2 classes. Mom said boys expressed pain differently. When I cried in the school bathroom and asked to stay home, she said I could not fall apart because she needed one dependable child. That sentence followed me into adulthood. Derek was allowed to become the emergency. I became the person who responded. When he lost his driver's license after too many tickets, I drove him to work before school. When he spent his college savings on a used boat, Mom said he was trying to reconnect with Dad. When I asked why my small scholarship refund had been used to cover the boat loan, she told me family resources went where they were most needed. When Derek left community college after one semester, Mom said traditional education did not fit his entrepreneurial personality. When I worked nights through respiratory therapy school, she said I had always enjoyed being busy. Grandpa saw the pattern. He did not attack Mom or insult Derek. He simply gave me somewhere else to stand. I spent weekends at the lake house helping him sand cabinets, organize tools, repair screens, and cook meals that contained more salt than any doctor would have approved. He taught me how to use a drill, sharpen a chisel, change a tire, balance a checkbook, and walk away from conversations designed only to exhaust me. "Your mother loves peace more than fairness," he said once after she pressured me to cover one of Derek's overdue bills. "That sounds kind." It isn't always. Peace without fairness usually means the quiet person surrendered. Derek married Kelsey Moore when I was 32. Kelsey ran a parenting and home design account online. Her photographs showed neutral-colored playrooms, carefully folded baby clothes, seasonal porch decorations, and captions about intentional family living. Behind the photographs, she and Derek moved 3 times in 5 years because his income remained unpredictable. Derek worked in sales for a regional building supply company and earned good money when commissions were strong. He also spent money as though every strong month represented the new permanent minimum. New pickup truck, boat payments, expensive hunting equipment, private sports camps for the children, furniture purchased through financing plans. Kelsey called these investments in family life. My mother called them proof that Derek was building something. Whenever a payment became difficult, Mom called me. "It's only $800 until Friday. The children shouldn't lose soccer because their father had one bad month." "You earn hospital money. You don't have school tuition. You have savings, Erin. What are savings for if not family?" I help too often. Not every time. Enough to create expectation. When Derek and Kelsey planned their wedding, the celebration grew from 80 guests at a lakeside lodge to nearly 200 at a resort near Madison. They added a welcome dinner, designer flowers, shuttle buses, a live band, custom signs, and a professional video crew because Kelsey believed the wedding could help grow her online audience. Mom volunteered my organizational skills without asking. I addressed invitations after the calligrapher quit. I corrected the guest list. I helped arrange hotel rooms. I picked up decorations. I repaired a wooden sign Grandpa had made for Derek years earlier. 5 days before the ceremony, the resort threatened to cancel part of the reception because the final payment was short. Derek called me at 1 in the morning. "I need $12,000. "No, you didn't ask why." "Because the amount remains $12,000 regardless of the explanation. Kelsey's parents already covered more than they promised, then reduced the wedding. Invitations are out. People are coming to watch you get married, not count flower arrangements." Silence. Then his voice changed. "You've always wanted me to fail." I knew the pattern. He created a crisis. I resisted, and resistance became proof of hidden jealousy. Mom called 10 minutes later crying. She said Kelsey might cancel the wedding because she had begun questioning whether Derek could provide stability. "That is something she should understand before marriage," I said. "How can you say that about your brother?" "Because marriage does not repair debt. This is why people think hospital work made you cold." I transferred $12,000 directly to the resort. Derek promised to repay me after 2 commissions closed. He never did. At the wedding, I was seated at a table beside vendors and former coworkers instead of near immediate family. When the photographer called for the Morgan family, Kelsey had insisted their social brand would use Derek's middle name, Morgan. Because it sounded stronger, I stepped toward my brother. Kelsey's coordinator held out one hand. "We're doing the central family first. I'm his sister. We'll add siblings after parents and the wedding party." The central photograph included Derek, Kelsey, Mom, Kelsey's parents, the children from Kelsey's previous relationship, and Kelsey's sister. I waited near the edge holding Mom's purse. Then the photographer needed sunset portraits. Then guests entered the reception. The sibling photograph never happened. The next morning, Kelsey posted the image with the caption, "Every person who carried us here." I was not in the photograph. My $12,000 had carried the reception more literally than half the people smiling beneath the caption. I commented, "Beautiful day. Wishing you both happiness." Mom called within minutes. "Why did you write that publicly?" "Because it was beautiful. It looks sarcastic when everyone knows you weren't included." "Why wasn't I included?" "Kelsey wanted a clean family photograph." "What makes me unclean?" There. That attitude. You can never let Derek have one moment without making it about fairness. I apologized. That detail still embarrasses me. I apologized for noticing I had been removed from a photograph financed partly by my savings. Grandpa called later that day. "You were not in the picture. The schedule was rushed. You are protecting them again. It was a wedding. Cruelty does not become ceremonial because cake is nearby." 2 years later, Grandpa died after a short battle with pancreatic cancer. I spent his final month driving between Milwaukee and the lake house, sleeping in a recliner when I could, and taking unpaid leave when my schedule allowed. Derek visited twice. The first time, he stayed 40 minutes because his son had baseball practice. The second time, he asked Grandpa whether the workshop tools had been appraised. Mom said Derek struggled with hospitals because Dad's death remained traumatic. I worked in a hospital. Apparently my trauma had become professionally useful. 1 week before he died, Grandpa asked me to sit beside his bed. His voice had become thin, but his eyes remained clear. "The house goes to you." "Grandpa, we don't need to talk about that." "We do because everyone else already has." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" "Your mother believes Derek's children create a stronger claim." "Did she say that?" "Not directly. She talked about stability, keeping property in the family, and how a single nurse has no time for a lake house." "I'm not asking for anything. That is exactly why I'm telling you." He gripped my wrist. "Do not let them turn compassion into a key." "What does that mean?" "They will not ask whether the house belongs to you. They will ask whether you are kind enough to give it away." After he died, the will confirmed what he told me. The lake house, workshop, furniture, and surrounding land came to me. Derek received Grandpa's truck, most of the woodworking equipment, and a life insurance distribution of $75,000. Mom received investments and personal belongings. Derek sold the truck and equipment within 2 months. He said he needed to clear debts and create a college fund for the children. I later learned most of the money went toward his truck loan, credit cards, and home renovations for Kelsey's content. The pressure about the lake house began before Grandpa's funeral flowers had wilted. Mom invited me to dinner. Derek and Kelsey were already there. "We need to discuss practical use," Mom said. "The house is not a timeshare." "Nobody said that." "Then what are we discussing?" Derek leaned back. "You live in Milwaukee. You work nights. The house will sit empty. I intend to repair it slowly." Kelsey folded her hands. "Our lease ends in October. The kids' school situation is getting worse. We thought we could stay there temporarily while we find something permanent." "No." They looked surprised that the answer arrived without a meeting. Mom said, "Erin, Grandpa warned me this conversation would happen. He was sick and suspicious. He was accurate." Derek's face hardened. "You think you deserved that house more than his great-grandchildren?" Grandpa decided who received it. "Because you were always hanging around, acting helpful. I provided his care." "Exactly. You made yourself indispensable near the end." The accusation hurt because caregiving had been exhausting and lonely. "Leave," Mom whispered. I stood. Kelsey said, "We aren't trying to take it. We're asking you to use what you have to help children." "Your children have parents." Derek laughed. "There she is. The woman who saves strangers' kids all night but can't help her own family." I left before the sentence could do what it was designed to do. I installed 2 security cameras at the lake house and replaced 1 lock, but I made a mistake. I allowed Mom to keep a spare key because she said she wanted to retrieve several of Grandpa's photographs. I should have remembered his warning. 3 days before I discovered them inside, Kelsey posted a photograph of cardboard boxes with the caption, "Big change is coming. Sometimes the life you prayed for arrives through family." I saw it during a break at work and assumed they were moving into a new rental. Derek texted me the same evening. "Hope the night shift isn't too brutal. We should talk soon." Whenever my family began with concern, a request followed. I did not answer. That Sunday shift was brutal. A 7-year-old boy with severe asthma arrived barely moving air. His mother kept saying he had never been that sick. We stabilized him, transferred him to intensive care, and spent hours adjusting support. At 3 in the morning, he finally squeezed his mother's fingers. Afterward, I sat in the staff room drinking burnt coffee and trying not to shake. My phone showed a security alert from the lake house. Headlights entered the driveway at 1:12 a.m. Then the camera went black. Someone had covered it. I called Derek. No answer. Mom, no answer. Kelsey, no answer. I clocked out, changed nothing except my shoes, and drove south through the darkness. I arrived at 4:37. The porch light was on. A moving trailer sat beside the house. Their wooden sign covered Grandpa's flag bracket. Boxes filled the entryway. One was labeled "Permanent Storage." Another read "Erin's Old Stuff." My belongings had been categorized for removal in my own house. The front door opened with my key because they had not yet changed the lock. Music played quietly. A cartoon lunchbox sat on Grandpa's bench. Mail addressed to Derek had already been placed on the entry table. He had changed his mailing address before moving. My nephew Lucas ran past me and called me the lady from Milwaukee. Kelsey came downstairs wearing one of my old college sweatshirts she had found in a closet. "You should have called before coming," she said. "Before coming to my house? The kids are sleeping. Wake them. You're leaving." Derek entered with Grandpa's green mug. "Don't start. You moved into property you do not own. Mom gave us the key. Mom does not own it. You weren't using it. That does not make it available." He took a slow drink. "The kids need stability. Their lease ended. You have a condo. We have a family." The sentence contained the entire family hierarchy. A married person's needs became moral. A single woman's possessions remained negotiable. "Pack essential belongings and leave." Kelsey's voice sharpened. "You want children sleeping in a car? You had months to arrange housing. We arranged this. Without permission. Family does not need paperwork for everything." I called Mom. She answered after several rings. "Please keep your voice down," she said. "Did you give Derek the key? He needed somewhere safe. Did you tell him he could move in?" Silence. "Mom, I thought once you saw the children settled, you would stop being so rigid." My stomach turned. The children were not accidental. They were part of the pressure. Grandpa left the house to me. Your grandfather was angry with Derek. Why? Old financial disagreements. How much did Derek owe him? This is not the time. You knew Grandpa had already helped him. Parents and grandparents help children. Then why must I keep helping after everyone else has? She sighed. "Because you can." That answer changed something, not because it surprised me, because she finally stopped decorating it. "Derek has 30 minutes to gather essentials. What are you going to do? Call the sheriff? You would call police on your own brother in front of his children? You used children to enter my house. Erin, do not destroy this family over wood and land. You selected wood and land when you gave him the key." I ended the call. Derek smiled when I told him I was calling law enforcement. "Go ahead. Explain why you threw 2 children out before sunrise." For 1 second, the image worked. Lucas standing beside a patrol car, his younger sister crying, Kelsey posting photographs, relatives calling me cruel. Then I saw a bright plastic sign taped to the upstairs bedroom. "Our new home." The letters were written by children who had been promised permanence. Derek had not only lied to me, he had built his children's hope on the assumption that my guilt would complete the transfer. I called. The deputy arrived with another officer. I showed identification, the recorded deed information, Grandpa's will, the covered camera, and my unanswered messages. Derek insisted Mom had permission to grant access. The deputy asked whether her name appeared on ownership records. It did not, Kelsey cried. The children watched. I hated every second. I also refused to accept responsibility for the scene they created. The officers instructed Derek and Kelsey to take medication, clothing, school supplies, and necessary items, then leave. Most furniture would remain temporarily until a supervised pickup. Before Derek walked out, he leaned close. You embarrassed me in front of my kids. You brought them into a house you knew was not yours. I told them it would be. That is your shame, not mine. He whispered. This isn't finished. Mom arrived as they were loading the car. She wore a cardigan over pajamas and looked at me as if I had set fire to the house. Are you proud? No. Those children trusted you. They were told a lie about me. They needed stability. Then their parents should provide it. You have become heartless. No, you relied on my heart until boundaries looked cruel. Mom left with them. When the cars disappeared, I entered the living room. Grandpa's chair had been pushed into the workshop. His Navy photograph was inside a box marked Donate. His books were packed in black bags. My grandmother's quilt lay beneath muddy shoes. A list had been taped to the refrigerator. Paint kids' rooms. Remove old furniture. Convert workshop. Call Brad about land. Brad was a local developer whose letters I had ignored for months. Beside the list was a printed email. Once Erin signs the family authorization, we can move toward an offer between $850,000 and $925,000, depending on access and shoreline review. My name appeared in the subject line. Derek had been negotiating with a buyer, while telling his children the house would remain their home. A second page was more disturbing. It was a simple authorization stating that Erin Michelle Calloway permitted Derek Calloway to discuss the property on behalf of the family. My name had been signed at the bottom without my middle initial. The signature resembled mine, but leaned differently. I did not need months of legal education to understand the emotional truth. My brother had tried to make the sale feel inevitable before asking me. Move in, redirect mail, promise the children, speak to a developer, produce a paper, then place me in the position of destroying the family's future by refusing. I called my friend Maya Santos, a hospital social worker who had helped families through housing crises and knew how manipulation hid inside emergency language. She arrived with coffee, trash bags, and a locksmith's number. Do not contact him while angry, she said. I need to ask about this paper. You already know what the paper means. I need him to admit it. No. You want him to transform betrayal into something you can forgive quickly. That sounded like Grandpa. What should I do? Change the locks. Photograph the rooms. Remove your mother from every access point. Send one written message. They have no permission to enter, use, advertise, promise, or discuss the property. Then sleep. I have to work tonight. Call in. The unit is short. You kept a child breathing for 14 hours, drove 70 miles, removed unauthorized occupants, and discovered your signature on a sale document. You are allowed one sick day. I called in. My supervisor said, "Take 2. I cried after hanging up because simple care from someone outside my family still felt undeserved. The following week became a storm of messages. Mom, I hope you understand the trauma you caused. Kelsey. Lucas keeps asking why Aunt Erin hates him. Derek. You have until Friday to be reasonable. Aunt Sharon. Your brother made mistakes, but children should not pay. Cousin Eric. You're sitting on nearly $1 million while family struggles. Nobody asked why Derek promised property he did not own. Nobody asked why Mom gave him the key. Nobody asked why my name appeared on an authorization. The family story began where my resistance became visible. I sent one response to the group. The house belongs to me. Derek entered without permission, moved his family in, covered the security camera, redirected mail, negotiated with a developer, and placed my name on an authorization I did not sign. His children are not responsible. I will not discuss this further through relatives. Mom replied publicly, This is what happens when hospital people forget compassion. I left the chat. I did not post screenshots. I did not contact Derek's employer. I did not call Kelsey's online sponsors. I notified the developer simply that Derek had no authority and that the property was not for sale. The representative apologized and ended contact immediately. I stored the false authorization with Grandpa's papers in case Derek tried again. That was the entire legal portion of my response. The deeper problem remained family. Grandpa's workshop contained an old ledger beneath fishing maps. He recorded every loan he had made to Derek. $4,000 for credit cards, $7,000 for a truck repair, $12,000 toward a failed pressure washing business, $9,000 for past due rent, $11,000 for school deposits, smaller amounts for insurance, utilities, and emergencies. The total exceeded $68,000. On the final page, Grandpa had written, "Linda will call Erin selfish because Erin is the only person she believes guilt can still move. Do not let need become ownership." I sat on the workshop floor and cried. Not because I needed proof that Grandpa loved me, because he had seen my future clearly and still could not protect me from experiencing it. He could leave me the house. He could not give me the strength to keep it. I had to build that after he was gone. Derek and Kelsey moved into a 2-bedroom rental near Mom's apartment. The children changed schools. Kelsey posted carefully cropped photographs captioned, "Starting over after unexpected family betrayal." She never named me, but relatives commented that some people valued property over children. Derek called the buyer's lost offer money I had stolen from the family. He did not say he had never owned the land. My silence irritated them more than arguments would have. Without my responses, their story had nowhere to attach. Then Mom invited me to Thanksgiving at Aunt Sharon's house. I declined. She called. "Grandpa would hate this division. Grandpa created the division by leaving me the house? Do not twist my words. Then say what you mean. I mean you are punishing everyone. I removed people from my property. You refuse to discuss compromise. Ownership is not a starting position for compromise." She began crying. "I am your mother. You gave someone a key to my house. I believed you would choose the children. You believed their presence would remove my ability to choose. That is not fair. It is exact." Aunt Sharon called 2 days later. "Your mother plans to bring a document. Then I'm definitely not attending." I told her no ambush. She will bring it. Probably. Why should I go? Because Derek is telling everyone you agreed to sell before Grandpa died and changed your mind after learning the value. That is false. I know. Do you? Silence. I did not until I saw the messages you sent. Then why did you call me cruel? Because Linda called me crying before you said anything. Her speed should not determine truth. You're right. Aunt Sharon rarely admitted mistakes. Come for 2 hours. Bring Maya. Leave whenever you choose. I agreed because part of me wanted the family to see the evidence. That was not pure. I wanted Derek exposed. I wanted Mom's soft voice to stop controlling the room. Anger helped me attend. Therapy later helped me admit that. Thanksgiving at Sharon's house looked ordinary enough to be dangerous. Turkey cooling on the counter. Football playing in the den. Children drawing handprint turkeys. Cinnamon candles. Family photographs on the piano. Mom hugged me carefully as though cameras were present. Derek nodded without standing. Kelsey kept the children near her and did not let them approach me. Lucas looked confused. I smiled at him. Kelsey turned his chair away. Maya sat beside me. My place card was at the far end near the kitchen. Derek sat near Mom at the center. I moved my card beside Maya. Mom whispered, "Please do not begin with a performance. Then stop using chairs as instructions." Sharon heard and added a chair without comment. Dinner remained tense. Derek described the rental as temporary. Kelsey discussed how difficult the school change had been. Mom said children needed roots. Everyone looked at me. I continued eating. After dessert, Mom placed a blue folder beside my plate. "We need a family solution." "No. You have not read it." I said, "No documents. This is not legal paperwork. It is an agreement between people who love each other." That description should frighten anyone raised in a manipulative family. The document proposed placing the house into shared family ownership. I would retain 40%. Derek and Kelsey would receive 40% because of their children. Mom would receive 20% as Grandpa's daughter. Derek's family could live there for 18 months while the property was evaluated. If a sale occurred, my share would be reduced by moving costs, property improvements, family debts, and compensation for Derek's management. The document also required me to apologize to Lucas and his sister for forcibly removing them from their home. In exchange, the family would stop discussing my behavior publicly and include me in holidays without hostility. "You are offering family access in exchange for my house," I said. Mom looked wounded. "We are trying to create fairness." "Grandpa already distributed his estate," Derek said. Grandpa was angry. "Because you owed him $68,000. His face changed. Kelsey turned toward him. "What?" "Old loans. You said Grandpa gave you less, because Erin manipulated him near the end." "That is what happened." I placed photocopies of the ledger pages on the table. "These are his records." Derek did not pick them up. Kelsey did. Her eyes moved down the amounts. "You told me the pressure washing business was funded through a bank loan." "It was partly." "You told me the truck was paid with commission savings." "Why are we doing this here?" "Because you moved our children into a house you were planning to sell while telling me we would keep it." The room became still. Derek looked at me. "You showed her the buyer email?" "You left it on my refrigerator." Kelsey's face went pale. "You said the developer wanted to partner with us after we established ownership." "That was one option." "Did you sign Erin's name?" "It was an informal authorization." "Did she sign it?" She had discussed keeping options open. I said, "I had never discussed a sale with him." Mom interrupted. "Erin, do not destroy their marriage. The truth is not responsible for promises I did not make." Derek pushed the ledger away. "Grandpa always kept score. Because you never repaid him. He had money. So do I. That does not create your right. You have no children." The sentence came out loudly enough that even the children in the den became quieter. "Explain why that matters." "Because you do not understand what stability means. I work with families whose children are dying. Do not tell me I cannot understand fear, because I did not give birth. That is work. This is blood. Blood did not stop you from forging my name." Mom whispered. "Do not use that word." "Which word feels better?" He was trying to create a family solution. "Without my consent." "Because he knew you would refuse." "Yes, refusal means no." My mother's face tightened. A decent woman would understand that one person sleeping alone in a condo does not need a lake house more than two children need a home. There it was, the sentence everyone had been circling. My life contained fewer people, therefore it required less space, less security, less memory, less ownership, and less respect. "You think loneliness reduces property rights?" I asked. "Do not make it sound cruel." "Then explain it without cruelty." She could not. Derek leaned forward. "You want the truth? Grandpa favored you because you played nurse when he was dying." I stood. Maya touched my wrist but did not pull. "I was his caregiver because you visited twice. I have children and a job. I have a job keeping children alive. You always need applause for being responsible." "No, you resent any evidence that responsibility exists." He stood too. "You think you are better than me. I think choices matter. You have always judged me. You moved into my house and promised it to your children. Because I thought eventually you would do the right thing. Meaning give you what Grandpa left me. Meaning act like family. I took Grandpa's old phone from my bag. The device no longer connected to service, but one video remained. I had found it in the workshop desk. Grandpa sat on the porch 6 months before his diagnosis, wearing a flannel shirt and speaking directly toward the camera. I had watched it alone once. He said, "Erin, if you're seeing this because the family is fighting over the house, then I was right, and I'm sorry. The house goes to you because you protected it, worked beside me, and never once asked what it was worth." Derek received money over many years, and again through insurance. Linda will say children need the property more than you. Remember that a need does not become ownership just because it arrives crying. You may keep the house, sell it, rent it, burn the ugly kitchen cabinets, or fill every room with hospital workers who need sleep. Do not give it away because someone calls your no unloving. A home should belong to the person who can stand inside it without turning another person's guilt into rent. The video ended. Nobody spoke. Mom's eyes filled. He recorded that against us? He recorded it for me. He hated Derek. He stopped rescuing Derek. Same thing to you, apparently, Derek said. Kelsey looked at him. Stop. You are taking her side now? I am hearing that you told our children they had a home you never had permission to use. We needed leverage. The word escaped. Leverage, Kelsey repeated. To make Erin discuss it. You used Lucas and Emma as leverage? I used reality. She would never understand family needs from her empty condo. Lucas had entered the dining room behind him. He heard enough. Dad, were we never keeping Grandpa Walter's house? Derek turned. Go watch the movie. You said Aunt Erin changed her mind. I looked at Lucas. Your dad made choices involving the house without asking me. You did nothing wrong. Kelsey took both children toward the den. Derek looked furious. Happy now? No. You made my son think I'm a liar. You told him a lie. Mom reached for the property agreement. Everyone is emotional. We should pause. No, I said. You created the meeting. Let it finish. I addressed the table. The house remains mine. It is not for sale. Derek and Kelsey will not live there. Mom will never receive a key. Nobody may use the address, negotiate with buyers, store belongings, or promise access. I will not pay Derek's debts, housing, legal expenses, children's activities, insurance, or emergencies. I will not respond to family members carrying messages. Mom looked horrified. You are cutting off your brother financially too? I should have done it years ago. The children will suffer. Their parents will budget. Derek laughed bitterly. This is revenge. Partly. At first. When I changed the locks, I wanted you to panic. I wanted you to understand what it felt like to lose access without warning. Maya looked at me. We had discussed honesty. But anger is not the only reason the boundary remains. The system is unhealthy after the anger ends. Derek picked up his coat. You will die alone in that house. The old threat. The one Mom used whenever I considered saying no. No husband, no children, nobody beside the hospital bed. Alone can be peaceful, I said. Being surrounded by people who convert love into ownership is not. He left. Mom began crying. How can you speak to your brother like that? How could you give him the key? I was trying to help. You knew I had refused. You forced me to choose between my children. No, you chose the child whose anger frightened you more. You have always been stronger. That was your excuse for giving me less. She covered her face. I felt the reflex. Comfort her. Apologize. Reduce the consequence. The reflex passed through my body like an old electrical signal. I let it pass. There will be no contact for 3 months, I said. You may write after that if the letter contains no requests, no blame, and no messages from Derek. What about Christmas? No. My birthday? No. You cannot punish me with silence. I am using distance to protect myself. It feels like punishment. Your feelings do not redefine my boundary. Maya and I left after 2 hours and 11 minutes. In the car, my hands shook. Do you regret going? She asked. No. Do you feel victorious? No. Good. Why good? Because you are grieving, not performing revenge. We stopped at a 24-hour diner and ate fries because neither of us wanted more turkey. The lake house remained empty through winter. I visited on weekends but could not sleep there at first. Every noise reminded me of another covered camera or key turning. I changed the locks twice, installed better lighting, and removed the wooden sign from the porch. I found children's height marks penciled onto the bedroom wall from the 3 days Derek's family occupied the house. I considered sanding them away. I left them. The children had done nothing wrong. Their marks belonged to the truth of what happened. I restored Grandpa's chair, unpacked his books, cleaned the quilt, and placed the green mug inside a kitchen cabinet. I did not use it. Some objects need distance before they become memories again. Kelsey separated from Derek in January. She did not leave because she suddenly believed I was good. She left because she discovered additional debts and learned Derek had promised the developer he could obtain my signature after establishing family pressure. She told Mom the move had been presented as temporary leverage, not permanent housing. Derek had told her the sale would clear their debts, fund a down payment, and leave enough money for me because Erin barely spends anything anyway. Their marriage entered counseling, then separation. I did not celebrate. Lucas and Emma lost the illusion of a stable family while adults argued about a house. Consequences rarely land only on the person who caused them. That does not mean the harmed person must continue absorbing everything to reduce the blast. Kelsey contacted me once. "I am sorry I moved into your home," she wrote. "I knew you had not said yes, but Derek and Linda told me you always refused before eventually helping. I chose to believe the children's presence would make the decision real. That was wrong." She also apologized for the social media photographs. "I posted the house because I wanted people to believe we had finally become stable. I used your property as content before it was ours." No request followed. I replied, "Thank you for being specific. I do not want contact beyond information directly affecting the children." She accepted. Mom's first letter arrived after 3 months. It began with explanations. She had been afraid Derek's family would become homeless. She believed Grandpa's decision was unfair. She felt trapped between children. She said grief had influenced everyone. I nearly stopped reading. Then the language changed. I gave Derek the key because I believed Erin's empathy was a weakness I could use. I knew she had said no. I thought if the children were already sleeping there, she would feel too cruel to remove them. I told myself I was helping grandchildren. I was also helping the child whose anger has controlled me since his father died. She admitted the wedding photograph. I knew Erin had paid the resort balance. I still allowed her exclusion because challenging Derek during his wedding felt harder than asking Erin to absorb one more hurt. She admitted years of using my career and marital status to justify taking more. I treated her life as less real because no spouse or children would complain when family demands consumed it. The final sentence said, "I am sorry. I want forgiveness, but I understand wanting it does not mean I am owed contact." I cried. Then I waited another month before replying. "I believe parts of the letter. I am not ready to meet. You may write again in 6 months. Do not contact the hospital, the house, Derek, Kelsey, or relatives to influence me." She responded, "Understood." She obeyed. That was the first apology I trusted. Derek did not apologize. He sent angry emails accusing me of breaking the family, destroying his marriage, and poisoning his children against him. I blocked each new address. He appeared once at the hospital employee entrance. I had already informed security. He stood near my car, looking exhausted and furious. "Take down the walls," he said. "What walls?" "The whole story everyone knows." I posted nothing. People know because Kelsey talks, and Mom confessed to Sharon. That is not mine to fix. My employer heard about the forged paper. "Did you create it?" "It was not a legal transfer." "Did you sign my name?" I was trying to start a conversation. "Then why not use your name?" He stepped closer. "You think Grandpa chose you because you're better." "No, he chose me because he believed I would say no. You always thought you were above me. I spent 20 years helping you because I was terrified everyone would leave if I stopped. So you admit you enjoyed being needed?" "Yes." The answer surprised him. "I confused rescuing you with having a brother. That was my part." "Then fix it." Naming my mistake does not require repeating it. His eyes filled. "My kids blame me. Tell them the truth in words they can survive. They love that house. They loved what you promised. Same difference to a child. Then you should have been more careful with their trust." Security opened the door behind me. "Do you want him removed?" the guard asked. Derek looked at me. You called security on your own brother. I called security on someone who came to my workplace after being told not to contact me. He walked away before the guard approached. I cried inside my car after he left. Boundaries can be correct and still hurt like loss. During spring, I began renovating the detached workshop. At first, I planned to restore Grandpa's cabinet-making space exactly. Then, one night at the hospital, a young nurse named Tasha sat in the break room after losing a teenage patient. Her shift had ended, but she said she could not drive home yet because her apartment felt too quiet and the hospital felt too loud. I thought about the workshop facing the lake. I converted half of it into a small respite apartment for hospital staff after difficult shifts. 1 bedroom. Simple kitchen. Shower. 2 porch chairs. No formal program, no publicity, no payment. Coworkers could reserve 1 or 2 nights through a private calendar. Grandpa's tools remained organized in the other half. The first person who stayed was Tasha. She sat on the porch at sunrise and texted me. This is the first place I've been all week where nobody needed me to be okay. I went into the kitchen and cried. Grandpa had not merely left property. He had left a place where care could exist without ownership. My niece Emma contacted me through Kelsey's phone when she was 13. Did Dad really take your house? She asked. I stared at the screen for an hour. Anger wanted to send every document. Love understood she was still a child. Your dad made decisions about the house without permission, I replied. The house was never his to promise. You and Lucas did nothing wrong. And I love you. She sent a heart. Later, Kelsey asked whether the children could meet me at a public park. I agreed. Lucas remained distant. Emma hugged me. Dad says you care about a building more than us. I sat beside her on a bench. Keeping my home did not require me to stop loving you. Your dad told you those things were connected because he wanted the house. Would you ever let us visit? Maybe one day, with clear rules and when it feels safe. Not Dad? Not now. Is that mean? No. Some people can be loved from farther away. Lucas stared at the ground. Dad said Grandpa hated him. Grandpa was disappointed in his choices. Same thing? No. Love and trust can become different sizes. The children visited the lake house the following summer with Kelsey. No overnight stay. No social posts. No promises. Lucas noticed his height mark on the bedroom wall. You left it. It belonged to you. Even though we weren't supposed to be here? You didn't know. He touched the pencil line. Dad did. Yes. We did not speak further. That visit became the beginning of a relationship separate from Derek. I did not become a replacement parent. I did not buy expensive gifts to prove I was the safer adult. We met for lunch, birthdays, and occasional weekends when Kelsey requested and the children wanted. Love remained voluntary. Mom and I met 2 years after Thanksgiving at a public cafe near Madison. She arrived early and brought nothing. No childhood photographs, documents, gift, or medical emergency. Can I hug you? She asked. No. Okay. We sat. Why did you favor Derek? I asked. She cried immediately but answered. Because he became like your father after the accident. Angry, loud, impossible to reach. Every time I calmed him, I felt I had prevented another loss. And me? You became capable. So you stopped parenting me. I made your competence permission to neglect you. Why did my being single matter? Because no one else appeared to be claiming your time or money. The honesty hurt. You believed unclaimed meant available. Yes, did you think I would remove the children? I thought you would threaten it and then surrender. Because I always had. Yes. Did you love me? Yes. Did you respect me? She looked down. Not enough. That answer hurt more than a comforting lie and helped more. What happens now? She asked. Limited contact. 1 call each month. No questions about the house, finances, dating, or my relationship with Derek. No messages between us. No surprise visits. If you pressure me, contact stops. Can I see the lake house? No. pain crossed her face. Ever? I don't know. Okay. The relationship remained limited. She learned to call without requests. At first, our conversations lasted 10 minutes, because neither of us knew what remained once emergencies disappeared. Weather. Work. A recipe. Her doctor's appointment, clearly described without assignment. No action needed, she began saying after health updates. Those 3 words became a form of respect. Derek's life became smaller. He lost the expensive truck, moved into a modest apartment, and eventually changed jobs. He told relatives, I had cost him everything. Over time, fewer people accepted the explanation because every sentence required ignoring his choices. He entered counseling during his custody discussions. 3 years after the takeover, he sent one handwritten letter. I moved into the house because I believed your love for the kids would defeat your boundary. I signed your name because I thought obtaining the offer first would make refusal irrational. I told myself Grandpa had already given you more than you deserved. The truth is that he gave me money repeatedly, and finally stopped. I hated you because he trusted you to do what I never did. Protect something instead of spending it. He admitted lying to Kelsey and the children. I wanted them to see me as the man who gave them a lake house. I was willing to make you the villain to become that father. No request until the final line. I would like to apologize in person one day, but I understand if the answer is no. I waited 8 months. Then I replied, I believe the letter is honest. I am not ready to meet. Continue being truthful with your children without making me responsible for their forgiveness. He answered, understood. 4 years later, we met at a diner. He looked older, quieter, and less polished. Do you hate me? No. Did you? Sometimes. Do you forgive me? Partly. Will I ever enter the house? No. His face tightened. Never? I do not need you inside that space to prove forgiveness. What about family holidays? Maybe public ones, not at the lake house. You still don't trust me. Correct. What would make you trust me? Time without pressure, and even then, trust may remain limited. He nodded. I thought apology would feel more powerful. It becomes powerful when you stop asking what it buys. He almost smiled. Therapy? Grandpa. We met once a year afterward. No money, no property, no emergencies. When he asked whether I could help Lucas with college expenses, I said, send him scholarship information. I will decide privately whether I give a graduation gift. Derek replied, okay. No guilt. No message from Mom. That ordinary acceptance showed more change than the apology letter. The lake house remained mine. I repaired the roof, updated wiring, restored the porch, and left Grandpa's kitchen cabinets exactly as they were, even though every contractor called them outdated. The developer's letters continued for a while. I declined each offer. I did not keep the house because Grandpa commanded me to. He gave me the right to choose. I kept it because the place became useful in a way money could not replace. More than 70 nurses, respiratory therapists, social workers, paramedics, and patient care assistants stayed in the workshop apartment during the next 6 years. Some needed rest after losing patients. Some needed distance from divorces or caregiving. Some simply wanted 12 hours where nobody knocked. There was one rule written near the door. You do not have to be useful here. I had needed that sentence my entire life. Last Thanksgiving, 9 years after the property transfer form, I hosted 12 people at the lake house. Maya, Tasha, Mom, for dessert only, Kelsey, Lucas, and Emma. Derek was invited for 1 hour after dinner because the children asked and because he had respected boundaries for several years. I told him clearly, no overnight stay, no property questions, no photographs posted, and no discussion of ownership. Understood, he said. He arrived carrying one store-bought pie and no boxes. That detail mattered. He stood on the porch until I opened the door. Can I come in? He asked. For 1 hour. He entered slowly. His eyes moved toward Grandpa's chair, books, green mug, and the children's old height marks. You kept everything. Not everything. The workshop looks different. It helps hospital staff. Grandpa would like that. I think so. He did not say he would have used the building differently. He did not mention property value. At dinner, Lucas asked whether we could take a family photograph. My body still reacted slightly to staged family images. Kelsey noticed. Private? She asked. Private. People chose where to stand. Mom remained near the edge until Emma pulled her closer. Derek stood beside his children but not beside me. Nobody called the grouping complete family. Nobody posted it. In the photograph, Tasha was laughing. Maya had closed her eyes. Lucas leaned forward too far, and Derek looked uncertain about where to place his hands. We kept it because no one was performing perfection. After dessert, Derek followed me onto the porch. Do you ever regret not selling? No. Even for 900,000? The land may be worth more now. You didn't answer like that to hurt me? No. The value no longer feels connected to you. He nodded. Do you regret calling the police? That question had lived inside me too. I regret that the children saw it. I do not regret removing you. Could you have given us a week? You had already created mail, school forms, a buyer conversation, and a false authorization. A week would have become another claim. You're right. He looked toward the water. I hate saying that. Practice. Did you enjoy watching everything fall apart? Sometimes. He looked surprised. The first months, I wanted your marriage, reputation, and plans to collapse because I wanted the pain to move back toward you. That was anger. I did not act to destroy those things. They collapsed around choices you had already made. Does admitting that make you feel guilty? Less than pretending I was perfectly calm. I'm sorry, Erin. I know. Does it matter? Yes. Does it change the boundary? No. He nodded. I think I finally understand. When he left, he did not ask for another visit. He thanked me for the hour. Mom left at the agreed time too. She hugged me only after asking. The house became quiet again. I stood in the living room beside Grandpa's chair and looked at the photograph on my phone. For years, my family had treated being alone as the threat that would make me surrender. The house was quiet, but I was not abandoned. Quiet held the memory of people who had eaten, laughed, apologized, and left when asked. Peace was not the absence of family, it was the absence of forced access. People often tell my story as though the victory was calling the sheriff, exposing the fake signature, stopping a developer, or keeping a valuable lake house. Those moments were satisfying. They were not the deepest change. The deepest change happened when Mom said, "Because you can." And I finally understood the family's definition of fairness. My ability had become their permission. Because I could work night shifts, I could cover bills. Because I could survive disappointment, Derek could receive attention. Because I had no children, my space could be reassigned. Because I earned a stable income, my savings became emergency money. Because I loved my niece and nephew, their presence could be used against my consent. Because I had always returned after being hurt, everyone assumed my no was merely the first stage of yes. Self-worth began when I stopped arguing that I needed the house more. I did not need to prove equal need. Ownership did not depend on being married, becoming a mother, sleeping there every night, or finding the most emotionally impressive use for each room. Grandpa gave it to me. I was allowed to keep it because I chose to. A single woman does not need to submit an occupancy report before deserving a home. A childless person's future is not empty space waiting for relatives. A responsible sibling is not a backup parent. A nurse's compassion does not follow her home as a public utility. I eventually used the workshop to help exhausted hospital workers, but that purpose did not justify my ownership. It reflected what I chose after the house was safe. That distinction matters. Harmed people should not need to become exceptionally generous to prove their boundary was moral. I could have locked the doors and used the property only for quiet weekends. My no would still have been valid. Grandpa's warning was not that blood had no meaning. It was that blood could be turned into a bill, family history presented as debt, childhood sacrifice presented as debt, A brother's children presented as debt. A mother's tears presented as debt. Every boundary became overdue payment. Once I stopped accepting the invoice, the family system changed. Mom learned that fear did not create authority. Derek learned that children could not safely carry promises built on theft. Kelsey learned that inspirational photographs could still contain someone else's property. The children learned that adults can love them while refusing their parents. I learned that compassion without boundaries becomes self-erasure. The green mug still sits in Grandpa's cabinet. I use it on Sunday mornings now. The crack near the handle has widened, so I never fill it completely. Some things remain useful only when handled according to their limits. Families are like that too. Derek and I have a narrow relationship. Mom has a limited place in my life. Kelsey and I communicate respectfully about the children. None of those relationships return to what they were. That is not failure. What they were depended on my surrender. The repaired versions contain less access and more truth. So here is the question I would ask anyone listening, because people remain divided when they hear that I eventually allowed my mother and brother back into carefully limited parts of my life, but never allowed either of them to enter the lake house freely again. If your own brother moved his family into the home you inherited, your mother gave him the key. They used children to pressure you, negotiated a sale behind your back, and signed your name without permission, but years later admitted everything, changed their behavior, and respected every boundary. Would you give them a small place at your Thanksgiving table? Or would the night you found their furniture inside your house be the moment the family door closed forever?